Credit Card Helpline. My name is John. How can I help you today?
Oh, see, now you're going to be in trouble because that's recorded.
Oh, well, I don't care.
Welcome to Based on a True Story. This is supposed to be episode 3, but really it's episode 1. But hey, we got to start somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. This is my brother Brandon.
Hi.
And we have a story to tell. Again, this is our story. This is our perspective. And this is all about not who was right or wrong, just how we dealt with it, how we deal with things, and how we make things in our lives more positive. Hi.
How are you? It's been a long time.
It's funny, when I was sitting with Jacqueline and I was doing this, I kept looking at her like a cue, fucking say something. We had to keep restarting. But
that was like when I'd be in the studio with a disc jockey years ago, and they always tell you when you're on a microphone, act like you're talking to somebody. So I would be in the room with them, and they would look at me as though they wanted me to respond. Like, I'm not responding live on the air. Forget it. No.
Right. Not to mention, that's just how I went through life in general. A lot of the times I like to listen to people. I got nothing to add to it, but I'm interested in what you got to say. Okay, so where to begin? I wanted to start our story off with first what we had in common. What are some things that you think we have in common, or some struggles that you think we both deal with but have never dealt with together?
Lack of confidence, of self-esteem, because we were not raised. We were not raised to think of ourselves that way. And I don't want to say that we were consistently called losers or anything like that by our parents, but we were not taught to go for the gold. We were told to sit down and shut up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so we both do that, but in our own ways.
So let's just dive into it. Let's tell our story. Just what it was like growing up in your typical suburbia household. What it's like to have a mom and dad, to have brothers, to have a dog sometimes, most of the time. And just, what it was like.
Well, I don't want anyone to get it twisted just because we had the suburban house, with the 2 cars and the 3 kids and the dog and everything. It doesn't mean that's how we lived. Okay, we might have had all that stuff, but that's about as far as it went, because we never... I think the last time I remember us going out to eat as a family was for Dad's 32nd birthday. It was Chi-Chi's. That's how long ago this was. Wow. As far as vacations are concerned, we went to Memphis in 1990 and Cedar Point in 1999. So we never did family trips, we never really did much of anything as a family.
I like how you can pinpoint dates, because that's something I've really struggled with. I've really struggled with when things happened. God, I'm echoing so bad.
Technical difficulties. He'll get it fixed.
Learn as you go, right?
I'm actually, for some reason, and considering, all the substances I've put in my body, the hard living I've done, I'm on a Rain Man-ish way of remembering dates and things like that.
Which, another thing I want to bring up is how I plan on having you on multiple times, because something that I haven't really told you is how big of an inspiration you've been for me. And I can see the dumb smirk on your face now, because
surprising.
Because we don't know how to take a compliment.
5 years ago, I wasn't even allowed in this house,
Right, and
so it's amazing to me.
You weren't, and that was something that I remember lying to you about. I remember texting my friends first and saying, "Look, guys, I'm gonna send this out as a mass text. My brother's fucked. He's fucked up in the head. I can't let him in my house, but I don't know how to tell him that one-on-one." Because I knew where your head was at. I knew how you were going to take it. I knew you were going to take it as me attacking you, because I knew you were in that defensive state. I mean, you're not yourself. You're putting things in your body that's turning you into somebody else. And long story short, I texted all my friends. I said, I'm going to send out this text saying, one of you motherfuckers stole from me. Nobody's allowed in my house. I told them that's not directed towards you, it's directed towards my brother. And
so here's the interesting thing now that I'm thinking about that is, I believe that you said that some pills were stolen.
I don't remember the same.
And I was like, I swear to God, I didn't steal. I was right.
I remember now.
I didn't steal anything.
I remember the exact story now. My weed pen was missing.
Ah.
And I turned this motherfucking house upside down 3 times because I did not want to say it was you. And I kept telling myself that over and over again. I know he wouldn't do it. I know he wouldn't do it. And it got to the point where I couldn't find it anywhere. And I was like, he was the last motherfucker in this house. Nothing else makes sense. And you got to think, in my mind, this was all true. Nobody was in my house. You were the only one in my house. I've turned this motherfucker upside down 3 times. So I went with it. I believed what I thought was true. Come to find out, I found that bitch behind the fridge. Or somewhere, like, it rolled off somewhere. It was somewhere where I wasn't going to fucking look. And I remember thinking, like, God damn it, dude. Like, why did you... Like, I knew it. I knew in my gut you didn't take it. Not to say that I know there's things that you have taken. I know there's things you've stolen. But, again, it's mindset. I know that wasn't you. I know who you are. And I knew you were going to get better. There was something inside me that... And again, when I think about how something I haven't gotten into, but even though this is technically the 3rd episode, so I probably will get into it. I always got a fucked up way of doing things. But, it's the same way that I have cut off our mom in the past year. I cut you off because I knew you were toxic. I knew I was fucked up in the head. I knew I had my own struggles. But I knew you were strong. I knew you were going to figure it out. And it's just one of those things where you got to let them hit rock bottom. You got to cut them off. You got to let them figure it out on their own. And
that's the irony of it, is think about how many rock bottoms I had hit in just that 4-year span. Because, yeah, I had been a pot smoker for quite some time. But you know what? Your money never came up missing when I needed pot, you know. Mm-hmm. I didn't come hit you up for money when I needed pot. It was when I got into the harder stuff.
The stuff that took control.
It got to be an issue. And you have to remember that within the span of a few months, I think I had just about the vast majority of people on both sides of the family that were either cautionary about welcoming me into their home, or that I had burned previously. You know, money would come up missing, musical instruments would come up missing. You'd notice there wasn't as much change in your jar after so, you know, and the worst part of it is I, even through all that, I still had a conscience telling me, you know, this isn't right. Right. But then my other brain would kick in and go, yeah, but you don't want to be dope sick tonight, do you?
About to be high as fuck.
So, you know, it's either, well, I can take this jar of change, or I can be sick and kick all night long until I figure something else out.
Right, and it's funny because, again, it's perspective. It's stepping outside that box. Getting stolen from, you're pissed. You know, you are the victim.
And as I have been stolen from, you think I'd understand that a little better.
Right, but at the same time, you're still full of that anger and that rage that this motherfucker just stole from me. Think about what they're going through to get to that point that they're willing to steal from you to get what they need.
Yeah.
That's never thought of, because you're so pissed off that they stole from you. It's that woe was me, motherfucker stole from me, that's my money, I earned that fucking crackhead stole my shit. Go get a job. Yeah. And it's just, you have no idea what that person's struggling with. You have no idea why they need that drug. Sure, they shouldn't have taken it to begin with, but why did they take it to begin with? Sure, they have the friends, the influence, okay, sure. But be self-aware. Why did you put that needle in your arm?
Because it gave me a feeling that I'd never had before in my life. A very warm, comfortable, welcoming feeling.
Loved.
Loved.
Right.
I got the physical sensation of, you know, it's like being wrapped in a warm blanket. And that wasn't the only drug I was into. The one that got me going when I was 18, it was the day after my last day of high school. I was invited into a back bedroom at a party, and there were white lines cut up in like a record turntable. You take the lid off, flip it upside down. There were lines cut up in there. And I'm like, well, fuck it, why not? So it was like $5 a line. I gave the guy $25. And
Party.
Ozzy Osbourne, in his biography, described it best. One sniff and you're king of the universe.
Oh, and
I'd never felt so just alive before.
That's the perfect segue, because we're getting off topic. The topic is supposed to be our childhood, and
which explains why I was on drugs.
Right, right. And you brought up Ozzy, and I really wanted this thing I created. I don't even have a title for. Is it a company? Is it a nonprofit? I don't know. I'll figure it out. The point is, it doesn't need a title right now. Comebackid is, and to pull it all together, you said, Ozzy, this is something for me, 21 Pilots. This is a world I created to feel some control. And if I want to destroy it, I'll destroy it. If I want to paint over that fucking Comebackid, I'll do it.
But it looks so good up there.
But, right, and when I look up at it, it brings me back to that Comebackid. When I was on those, like I put in on my website, those hard streets of Sterling Heights. Yeah. When I was walking those hard, and I say it like that to make fun of myself, because I know how safe Sterling Heights is.
When you can walk around town at night with your headphones on full blast, you're probably not in the hood. And
to put it into even more perspective, when I was walking those streets, when I was walking from Hollywood Hills at 16 and a half in Van Dyke area, where my dad lived, my family grew up, and I ended up hanging out in for a long time. When I was walking home at 3, 4 in the morning, because my girlfriend's dad got home at that time, so I needed to get the fuck out before he got home. Reggie, tall, what is he, probably like 6'3", he's a tall dude, black dude, walking me home halfway, so we'd take Plumbrook. Right when we got to about a little bit before that golf course there, he'd walk back and I'd walk home. How many motherfuckers do you know at 3 in the morning? Mind you, back then I wasn't on no drugs, no alcohol, I'm 14. How many motherfuckers are going to walk you that far in the middle of the night and then walk home by themselves to make sure you get home okay?
Probably not too many.
Right. And that's one thing I always held on to, because when it came to our family and our childhood, the sense of abandonment I had was incredible.
Which was easy to do.
Right. Because...
And the irony of it is that the person who is probably the most responsible for those feelings is the same person who never quite understood your friendship with a lot of these people. Because when she was growing up, everybody and all the kids were the neighborhood kids.
Oh, that's something we discussed a lot.
And because she never had friends like that growing up, she couldn't understand your relationship with these people, who felt like more of a family than even your family most of the time.
Right. And I just want to throw out another disclaimer really quick before we go forward. This thing I created is not an attack on anyone. All I'm trying to do is process this. I'm trying to process what my mindset was back then, why I thought the way I did, why I did the things I did, and how I survived it. How I didn't end my life, how my suicide attempt failed, and how when I needed help, I mean, that's the biggest cry for help you can have, is leaving a letter for your mom saying, I can't take this anymore.
She's probably going to be brought up quite a bit.
Right, and I think that's because...
So the disclaimer is fair, you know? Yeah. We're really just trying to work this out and maybe help someone else work out whatever they dealt with.
And that's exactly it. It's the inspiration. It's the inspiration that there's kids that I went to high school with, like Brian Dunn, for example. I listened to this kid's podcast, and he's always... Him and I were never, I'd say, close, per se, but we were always close acquaintances. I never had a problem with him ever. I always saw him, and I thought, great dude. I don't know what he thought of me. My idea of what he thought of me was, look at this fucking idiot. Like, but he laughed, and that's all I was trying to get out of people. But He played hockey. I played hockey. I'll never forget, I think it's 5th grade when you get to decide if you want to be in band or not.
Mm-hmm.
You played the drums. I wanted those motherfucking drums so bad. When it came to picking, what you're going to do. And I remember they said, we're only going to have 2 percussionists. And I'm thinking, like, fuck, my last name's Noel. They're going alphabetical. What do you want to play? Brian Dunn first, 1 percussion. I'm like, fuck, there's 1 left. Tommy Klinowski.
Yep. The KL before the KN.
All through school, because we went to school our whole lives. Percussion. Fucking A, dude, my heart dropped. So I said trumpet.
That's the luck.
I said trumpet. I don't think Dad never even rented it for me because I just said trumpet because I didn't know what the fuck else to say. Yeah. Anyway, this kid has struggled. This kid, and I had no idea. I knew he had a podcast. And right before I started doing this one, I was going around to different podcasts, and I said, you know what, let me listen to a couple first podcasts of people's. Let me see what they have to say. And I felt fake again. Because I listened to this podcast, and this kid is saying word for word what the fuck I want to say. And I'm like, I thought I was onto something. I thought I found the answer. Then I listened to another podcast, same thing. Another podcast, same thing. And I'm like, wow. And each story had their own little wow factor to it, but it's just amazing how many people out there are struggling, and it's not that my story is important, it's not that my story is more valuable than other people's, it's just that it could help somebody.
Sure.
It could help somebody that is in the same spot I was, or the same spot I still am. When I started talking about that suicide, I got choked up because I don't like to talk about it. As much as I can talk about it as a joke or really quick, I don't like to get deep into those thoughts. And those thoughts started coming back pretty hard. And I'm sitting here thinking, why? I have a beautiful wife. I have a beautiful boy, a baby girl that I'm head over heels for. Why am I so sad? What am I missing? And that's when I quit the job. I said, I need to figure this shit out, because if I don't, I'm going to end up either going to jail for hitting someone, or I'm going to end up dead, because the people I was working for, if you hit one of them, motherfucker, you better be able to hit 25 of them.
Right.
So I had to quit. And that's a lot of free time I had to deal with myself. And I went to the one answer I knew, and that was music. And it takes a lot for me to say that, because I've always been embarrassed of that, because, not that it's your fault, but because of you. Because music was your thing. And I always seen how good you were at it, and how inspirational you were to me. Just about how knowledgeable you were about it, and how you had that connection to something outside of family.
Well, when you're grounded 95% of your childhood, you get to be intimately related and close to your FM radio, to your cassette deck, to your CD collection.
Right.
If I would have perhaps been allowed to have the childhood that I didn't get, maybe I wouldn't be so big on what this station is playing and what album this song is on and who produced that album. That was my closest friend for a number of years.
Exactly, and that became my only friend for the last year and a half. And people can, you can look at it different ways. Maybe the music is what controlled your mindset. Maybe it's the music that made you put those thoughts into your head. But for me, it took that dark place where you think you're the ugliest person in the world, the fattest person in the world, you're no good, you're garbage. When you start to think that your wife deserves way better than you. Your wife should be with a fucking millionaire.
Don't say Tom Cruise. Don't say Tom Cruise.
No, but she should be with, she deserves better. And so do your kids. That's when you know you're in a bad place. And you gotta look somewhere. And that's when I looked at music. Because it's the closest thing I felt comfortable with. It's the one thing that when I think of memories, sure, good, bad, whatever, it keeps me grounded.
You know, it's funny you mentioned grounded and music, and you know, I'm sitting here staring at your copy of Enema of the State, and that was one of those records that I'd had on all summer long.
Oh, I remember
that year. Every day that was in my CD player. But I could get closer to it because what else could I do? I babysat you guys all day, every day, all summer. So couldn't have friends over. Nobody could leave. So the most logical progression was, well, I paid $13 for this album. I'm going to get to know it quite well.
Right, and it's when I think about how shitty our childhood was, I try to think of the silver linings of things that I loved about it. And that was one of those things. Sure, we were grounded for the whole fucking summer. And somehow or another, if we tried to... You let me go out sometimes, but I fucked up. I came home late, or Mom would show home early.
And then I get my... See, that was the thing. No matter who fucked up, everyone was going to get bitched at for it.
Yeah.
What was I... Why am I getting yelled at because you left? What am I supposed to do? Like, take my belt off? Like, you don't want to hear about it while you're at work. See, this is part of the major problem is we could never do anything right growing up. Nothing. If you do A, you're supposed to do B. If you do B, why didn't you do A? There was no winning.
And I always said it was either, like you said, you should have done this, or, you know, if you do something good, if you do something well, that's how you should have done it. You didn't get praise.
Nope.
That's how it should have been done.
Yep.
It was defeating. I remember 5th grade one quarter, and this is how sad it is. I remember it was 3rd quarter. I got on the honor roll. I got all B's.
Shit,
I remember opening up that fucking letter and seeing that gold star, and I was ecstatic.
I feel like I know what the response is going to be, but just go ahead and finish.
No, I mean, that was one of the few times Mom and Dad showed me how proud they were of me.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I was on cloud 9.
I was expecting to hear, why aren't they A's?
Well, I do think there was like a B minus, or no, because he had to have all B's, so no, there was... Anyway, 4th quarter comes around, end of the school year, I'm excited. I go in my bedroom, I didn't even look at my my report card yet. I opened it up, no star. I had all B's and a C.
Damn.
I bawled my eyes out. Because I knew I wasn't going to get that.
Nope.
That love, like how I got when I got on the honor roll. I
Not
never got on
good
the honor roll
enough.
again.
Not good enough.
Nope.
Yep.
And she told me, like, I remember Mom sitting there on the bed, consoling me, saying, it's all right, it's still, it's still something to be proud of. But it still wasn't that you're proud of me. It's not, I wasn't getting that praise. And it's just, I never got it again. The last time I was proud of who I was, 5th grade. When it comes down to my childhood.
So we're talking what, 2000?
Yeah.
21
and then
years.
Comes hell. 2002, 2001. And this is something that is going to be tough. I know it's going to be tough. God, I'm being such a bitch.
I gotta... Can someone bring me my Vernors up here?
Call Travis. Somehow it'll turn into a Diet Vernors.
Yeah, I know. And it'll be flat. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
And it's, getting emotional about it, too, is funny because I'm not in a sad mood right now. But when I try to put it into words,
It's because you're in a good mood, that's why.
Yeah, and it's...
Bringing it the other direction.
And it's something I've thought about in my head a lot, and I don't get emotional about it, but I've never talked about it out loud. So I've never really... And, when I think about the things that I've done during that divorce to get away from it all, the one person I was closest with is Jeremiah. Mm-hmm. That's the house I would run to. That's going to have to be for another time, because I don't think I'm over that yet.
Fair enough.
Anyway, back to the divorce. Yeah. I remember the phone call. I remember for some reason I was up at 6 in the morning, which doesn't make sense because I remember getting my ass whooped repeatedly for being a pain in the ass for not getting up at 8:30 to be to school by 9.
Yeah.
Literally getting my ass whooped when I got home from school for not waking up at 8 o'clock.
There's always something.
Yeah, I guess Travis was sick, and I remember Dad came home, and this was back in the days of landlines, and we had a wireless phone.
Oh, are you talking about the base when he forgot something?
Well,
He forgot something and he came back to the house.
I heard it was because Travis was sick and he decided to turn around. You could be right. I don't know. That's just what I
know
heard.
he decided to turn around. I just don't remember what he decided to turn around for.
Right.
But he had left and had come back, so I don't know what that was.
Either way, he went to go hit the button to page the phone because it wasn't on the base, and he hit speakerphone.
Yep.
And that's when he heard a guy's voice. And for some reason, it wasn't the "who the fuck are you on the phone with" that woke me up. I was already up. I remember hearing the guy's voice on the phone.
Yep.
It must have been Dad coming through the door that woke me up. I don't know.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah.
Because I had to be up for school soon anyway.
But there's no way. I mean, I don't know about you because I think you were in high school then.
I was in high school.
So yeah, you had to be up.
I was laying. My bed was long way, and the wall was here, and the phone base was literally right
against
on the other
that
side
wall.
of the wall.
Yeah.
So I heard the boop, blah, 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 and I'm like, what the fuck, man?
So I kind of want to shut up because I want to hear your take on it. Because
Can I have my Verners first?
Oh, fucking Travis. See?
He's busy cleaning your house.
Yeah.
You said you wanted the house perfect.
And that's... I need to organize my episodes because that's a whole nother episode.
What, Travis? That's why I wore the Dwight Schrute shirt.
Hey, bring up Brandon's Verners, please. Thank you.
Look at that concierge service. All right.
Yeah, I guess raising your little brother has its perks at times.
It does. It really does. You got him trained well.
But yeah, go ahead. So the phone call.
All right. So it's like you. I didn't normally hear Dad leave, but thank you. And Detroit, Michigan, right
There
here.
you go.
That's when I heard the boop, and then I heard the talking. Okay, and that conversation went to the tune of, "Who the fuck is this?"
Mm-hmm.
Bob.
Who? Does
Stay
Woody
out
know
of
you're
fucking
talking?
divorce, Bob? Yeah, we thought it was Aunt Wendy's Bob.
Oh wait, hold up, back up though. Was the divorce already going through?
I don't know at that point. I want to say it was not long after 9/11. And if they divorced officially in June, that means it would have had to have been filed around, November?
Okay.
Okay.
And I just want to make it clear that this is perspective. Okay, this is, like I just said, I couldn't remember why my dad came home.
And we can't ask him now either.
We can't ask him, and that's here nor there because we don't know what our parents were going through at that time. At that time, I was 12 years old. So I was right in the middle of, I'd say, puberty. Either onset, right about to start, or going through it, whatever, right around there.
In that hood.
And you were a senior, about to be a senior.
No, I had just started my junior year.
Okay. So go
11th
ahead.
grade. Now, mind you, since you're talking about perspective, you have to remember this was never a happy marriage to begin with. At least not as far back as I can remember.
Which doesn't make sense to me, to be honest. I mean, I've been with Jacqueline since 2007. We've been married since 2013. I mean, we've had our fights. Fights, I think, are very healthy. I think if you go along in a marriage always agreeing with each other, nobody ever agrees with everybody all the time.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and if you can't have that talk with the person that you love, then you might as well just quit right there, I feel, because you need to be honest with that person.
Well, you have to remember, number one, Mom was never going to be happy with anything.
But, see, I don't know if that's fair.
It is, because... You know, what did Dad ever really want? The guy worked 60 hours a week, okay? The guy wanted to come home when everyone was in bed and burn one, okay? Regardless of how you feel about marijuana, about any kind of drug use, the bills were always paid. We had the house, we had the cars, okay, so maybe we're struggling financially a little bit, but it was never weed first,
Right.
Phone bill second.
Our Christmases up until that point were always the shit. As far as I could remember, I mean, I remember getting a Nintendo 64. That was my favorite, to this day, my favorite present. I was ecstatic. Getting a puppy. I remember getting a puppy for
You got
Christmas.
cinnamon, yeah.
I remember, that entertainment stand that was for Grandpa or some shit.
Yeah.
That was in our living room before Christmas, and then we got a computer. Like, we had great Christmases. So the fact that we were, and they might have reached for that. They might have put themselves into some serious debt because of that. I heard one time Uncle Mike binked it one time at the casino one night, and that was the year I got an Xbox. So thank you, Uncle Mike. He's no longer with us, but
So it's important to remember that this marriage was never, especially there was no Ozzy and Harriet growing up. So, I was up. I heard the beep, the who the fuck are you talk? Who is this? Bob. Bob, stay the hell out of my divorce. And I'm laying there like, this probably isn't going to go very well. Because it didn't take me long to realize that, you got to remember, I'm 16, okay? Mm-hmm. So I'm in my formative years. You can't wait for your husband to get up at 4 a.m. and leave the house at 4:30, 5 o'clock. So you jump on the phone and call another man. That right there is some shit I still deal with to this day. Even though I have an incredibly wonderful and supportive girlfriend who I know where she is and what she's doing, she'll tell me. I won't even have to ask, she'll tell me. 24 hours a day, I know who she's with, I know what she's doing, I know where she's at.
But doesn't that... I find myself struggling with that a lot. Because I want to know where my wife is because of safety reasons. Because, she's a photographer. She goes down to Detroit a lot. And I tell her a lot of the times, you're really naive, and I don't want you to take that as a bad thing. Like, I wish I was more naive than what I am, because I'm so, nervous a lot of the times. And I used to never fucking be like that. I was always sure about myself, and to a point where it fucks me a lot. To the point where, my perspective is my perspective, and I think it comes back to this divorce.
I'm sure it does.
I think it all comes back to...
It did for a long time.
I didn't know who to trust, because the two people that I loved the most in this world showed me that love didn't exist.
Yeah.
And that the person that you love the most will fuck you over in the end.
Sitting 5 feet away from you on the other side of the couch, you wonder what they're thinking.
Yeah.
What their plan really is,
Like, there's always some deeper meaning to something.
Yep. So, like I said, the gut feeling that I got, and it was hard to get up that morning, because it was like I was like tiptoeing, like, well, I know what's going on. Do I say anything? Like, what the hell was that about?
It's a blur for me after this.
It's, so, eventually, and I don't know if you plan on doing an episode about this, but when I found out who was on the other end of that phone line, it is a name, and I'm sure you will find out in future episodes, but...
Maybe, but I really didn't want to get into... I mean, I want details, but as far as names go...
Well, I'm going to get into the details, but the reason that I want to just put that out there was because the way that I discovered who it was, you have to remember, this is 2001, I'm 16, so it's not like 2021 where it's like there's security and passwords.
This is something I really empathize with you about.
You click buttons, and I struggled to whether or not it was the right thing to do. Some people say it was cool of me. Some people say it was not a good idea for me to do it. But you could just go through and click history and pull up emails. And
I remember thinking you were a fucking savant. Motherfucker knows how to hack computers.
So because with our, you had to hide, with us, you had to hide everything, this is bad, this is wrong, shouldn't be, we couldn't be kids, okay, so whatever. So in a roundabout, actually in a direct way, I helped my father, because for some reason, on some level, I felt worse for him. I think in part because my mother did what she did.
And that's where I say...
So I wanted to back him.
Mm-hmm.
And
we weren't getting the full picture because that's all we knew.
Oh, I'd known for years that,
But we didn't know, like, we went to bed at a certain point, So
Right.
even at, like, 10, 11, 12, you don't know what conversations they were having. You don't know if mom tried. You don't know if dad tried. You don't know... at one point, it was just them two, and we don't know what was said, what was done.
Well, the basis of what it comes down to a lot is dad wanted to smoke, mom wouldn't have it. And that's what it came down to in the end.
And that was dad's perspective.
Yes.
Because that's what he told me too. But
because
from mom's perspective, and this is where I'm starting, this is where to be honest, I never thought I'd see myself defending mom in this conversation and saying, some of this is dad's fault, is mom was so creative. Mom is so creative. She, to the point where I remember our sister Catherine asking me to describe mom in 3 words. I don't remember 2 of them, but I know one of them was melodramatic.
Yes.
I know mom, I used to say all the time, and I think you get some of this from her too. I remember in the morning thinking that watching you guys act, or just, doing your own thing and thinking like, these guys think they're on a fucking TV show right now. Like, these guys think the camera's on. Like, because you guys just had that personality about you where you were just...
Which is why radio is such a logical thing for me to get into.
You just had that personality that, just you weren't shy.
Walking around singing, dirty lyrics to songs and stuff. Like, that's just the kind of...
Yeah.
The X-rated Weird Al kind of stuff, because it makes people laugh.
Right, and I just never had that. And that's something I wish I had. I mean, I have it when... But it has to be spontaneous. I remember... in junior high, Mr. McBroom,
oh boy,
who was to be honest, like, I'm not proud of this story now. Like, it's funny looking back at it, but at the same time, like, what were you thinking?
I think a lot way about a lot of things now.
Yeah. For Halloween, I was a Twinkie. I decided to come as a Hostess Twinkie.
Why do I feel like I remember this too?
So I had this huge ass Hostess Twinkie costume, and I wore like a white long sleeve white gloves, whatever. So we had a pep assembly. And, the 7th, 8th, 9th grade were there. Mr. McBroom standing there, and he was a heavy-set guy. And everyone was finally sitting down. I decided to get up in front of the whole school and start shaking my ass in front of the principal, like rubbing myself on him. Of course, suspended. Like,
yep.
The fuck do you think's gonna happen? But at that time, I'm gonna make everybody fucking die laughing.
Yep.
And I had the whole fucking crowd going, Twinkie, Twinkie. And I'm doing the chicken dance in front of our overweight principal. And I felt fucking on top of the world. Because I was making everybody else laugh.
Yep.
Anywho. Yeah, so in defending mom, she might have wanted more. Like, she had that creative personality. She might have wanted more. And dad he had that personality where he was content. And there's nothing wrong with being content.
Right.
Content is joy. Like, if you found your constant happiness, your constant joy, and if that's smoking a J, watching the Wings game, going to bed, doing it all over again the next day, so be it. If that's what you want, and you found it, and you're happy, some people just aren't meant to be together. And that's basically what happened.
See, dad just wanted to, she got pregnant, and he just wanted to do the right thing.
Because of that sense of family that he had, I think. Both of our parents come from larger families. Mom had 6 siblings. Dad had 5, 6, if you count. Yeah, 6. With Uncle Dave, this is going to get edited out, but I'm just, So large families, and they always had a sense of community within themselves, I think, as a family, because they were so big.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think I've struggled with recently. But for another time, because I'm just somebody, that ADHD in me wants to get off topic.
It happens, yeah.
But go ahead.
With the...
So we were at...
After the divorce.
Well, we're during the divorce. So we're talking about the emails. Those damn emails.
Yeah. So you guys think Donald and Hillary were the biggest with emails? No. That was me 15 years beforehand, digging through the computer, which, again, I'd like to add, the average family had their computer, in the living room or set up wherever. No. Our computer was locked in
Mom
our
and Dad's
parents'
closet.
room, okay? So, once again, slap in the face. And I remember digging these emails out, and the things that were written on them were just, first of all, they're not something that a 16-year-old should probably be reading.
That's why I say I feel really bad for you.
The Bill Clinton, I remember, still sticks in my mind, because if you're of a certain age, you know goddamn well what the Bill Clinton is.
Mm-hmm.
So...
And you're talking about your mother here.
Yeah. And then somehow or another, I think, do you remember the Nokia cell phone? Do you remember that one? That Mom used to carry?
Yeah.
Which we think had a lot to do with, her sneaking around. Well, somehow or another, he got a phone number out of there, and he used to have me. See, I suddenly became his partner in crime with all this stuff.
But that's a bonding thing you guys have.
And again, there were two things that my father and I bonded over were my mother fucking around on him and marijuana use. And you don't find that combination every day. And I think in a way Dad felt bad because he wanted to raise us the way he was raised, where you weren't ever home. You were out with your buddies, whether you're playing ball, smoking a joint, whatever the case.
And you're 100%
Mom had
right,
to
because
stay home.
I have notes proving that. I have notes that Dad wrote to the friend of the court, which in reading this in his sloppy ass handwriting and his misspelling and
Yep.
Dad wasn't the brightest guy in the world, but the
was
guy
street
had
smart. He was not book smart, but he was
very street smart. And the guy just had the biggest fucking heart, and he just didn't know how to show it.
Nope, because you didn't do that back then. That's why neither of our parents knew how to raise us. They were just raised us like how they were raised, and even the way they were raised was like button heads.
Yeah, and there was times where friends would come over, even in the apartment where we stayed, and Dad would get a little loud, and they'd get scared. I go, "What are you scared for?" I go, "Your dad's fucking screaming." I go, "My dad's just being. He's not
That's
mad.
bad.
You'll
That's
know
key.
when he's mad. He's not mad."
Did the lips disappear?
No.
Did the
So he's
beard
fine.
and mustache become one?
Right. So
Okay,
yeah,
lips are gone. I'm leaving.
the fact that you had to not only catch your mom being unfaithful, your mom being dishonest, which to me, I'm starting to wrap my head around how unhappy she was. You gotta think. How I hear people say how can a mother leave their children, and I think you're right. How could they? How fucked up must they have been in their own mind, in their own state of unhappiness, to where they had to let go? Because if you think about it, the hardest thing I've had to do lately was let go of Mom, because I've tried
For years.
so hard to have that mother-son bond, and I've read about it. I've watched it on TV. I've seen my
With
friends.
my friends, yeah.
I've seen my friends and their mom. Even Brian, for example, just listening to the relationship he had with his mom, just driving home from hockey every day. God, I wanted that so bad. And I think that's where I closed off the creativity side of me, because that was Mom, and I was so fucking mad at Mom that I wanted to do whatever I could to not be her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that chip on the shoulder first started to become a thing. So let's move past the emails, even though I can't stress enough how fucked up I think that is. Especially reading like, I read some of them when I was when it was happening, and there was some things where I couldn't even make sense of because I was so young.
Yeah.
But there was some things I definitely caught on to, and I was like, it's my mom. Like,
Yeah.
why are you talking about my mom like this?
It changes your viewpoint quite a bit. And then that's not even to talk about the way, I mean, I can only imagine what it took for him to process all that. To find out that your wife of 17, because they had just celebrated their 17th anniversary the month or two prior.
Yeah.
And
18.
to know that was going through her head, and she wound up going through with it, and the fucking person that she did it with.
Yeah, we need to hit on that a little bit.
That, I don't know how he ever dealt with that, and I never got a chance to ask him, because he was always just such a big badass that I just assumed he was, whatever.
Right.
No. What happened with them back in the early 80s? Oh my God, I would go into a rage. I don't know how he dealt with it. And it's a damn shame I'll never get to ask him now.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I mean. I could not imagine being that unhappy for that long, which is why I say it couldn't have all been bad. There's no fucking way it was all bad. Because even Dad has that kind of mentality where like 18 years, dude, he would have said fuck it eventually.
Yeah. Well, what he told me was, I don't know if this was before or after, the discovery was made. But apparently one night they were going to bed or whatever, and Mom rolls over and says something about, like, we need to talk, or we need to have a talk, and he just goes, do you want a divorce, Kathy?
It was
I'll
after
give you a
hockey.
divorce." Was it? Okay.
He told me it was after hockey one
Okay.
time.
Okay, so you know about that then, because I think in his own way he wanted to do it, but he didn't want to do it because he knew what was going to happen if it was done, if there was a divorce. In a way, I kind of wish if they had gotten divorced, it would have been more amicable, because all those years, if one said black, the other one said white. Mm-hmm. You were never going to get them to, and again, all those years where I was put in the middle, the monkey in the middle between Dad says this, so I gotta go tell Mom. Well, Mom, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. I gotta go back to Dad with it. It's like, I'm fucking 22 years old. I don't need this shit.
Oh, those games were fucking obnoxious.
Extremely.
And this is the time. See, the beginning of it, I feel bad for you. I wish they would have just held on for like another year or two. Because that way, maybe you could have gotten away. Could have gotten away just in time to not see
the damage
shit.
was fairly well done by
it
that
was,
point.
But the damage it did afterwards, that A-bomb, or that divorce bomb, however you want to look at it. And that's, again, the struggle of abandonment. It's tough, because you see, for me, I'm going to school to be a social studies teacher. So I've covered everything from psychology to civics, government, history. And the one thing that I really latched onto recently is the story of Detroit. And how it started off so beautiful. It started off as, that's where the American dream was Detroit. And just to see what happened to Detroit and how misunderstood Detroit is. People think, I want to make this podcast as least political as I can, because I think that is the most dividing factor of all these days.
Yeah.
Pick a side, and it's one side versus the other to the death, which is something you just cannot do in life. Anyway, the racism that goes through Detroit of, look what these black people did to this city. This city was beautiful. It was huge when the white people were here. And then when the black people are here, now look at it. And it's just so fucking ignorant. It's just so ignorant. When diving into that history and realizing, what redlining was.
Yeah.
And what white flight was. And
the
that abandonment.
And whatnot, yeah.
Motherfucker, you're goddamn right they rioted. They rebelled, whatever you want to call it. Because they were sick and fucking tired. They were sick and tired of watching their children go to shittier schools than the white kids. They were fucking sick and tired of their house that was once worth they were building towards their future. It was worth something to now all of a sudden it's in this district where it's not worth shit.
Yeah.
And that I attach to that. I empathize with that because that's I think this the parallel story of our life. We had that suburbia dream where we're safe. We're in Sterling Heights, the second safest city in America. But it was hell. In my mind, it was Detroit. In my mind, I've always told my friends, there were nights where I did walk the streets until the sun came up. And, 20 degrees in Sterling Heights is 20 degrees in Detroit. It's fucking cold. It sucks. You're alone. And you got nothing but your own thoughts. And it sucks because everybody just has their own life. It's not about you. And you know that. And it's up to you. And it shouldn't be. At that age, it shouldn't be. Your parents should have your back.
Yeah.
And I felt so abandoned because I had to figure out all that shit on my own. And I know a lot of that was my fault. But this divorce really fucked me up, man. And it's just something that I never thought it did. I always thought I was so tough. Like, I always made fun of my parents. Like, these fucking idiots breaking all their shit. How stupid can you be
stuff,
to break your own shit? But then again, that's ignorant.
Well, what it did for me, well, in the short term and the long term, was it blew my understanding of what intimacy was, what trust was, because at 16 years old, you're really just starting to discover dating and girlfriends and crushes and that kind of shit. And not that it's like said, to brag, but there were girls that were interested in me back then. And I had to do my best to palm to the forehead, stay
And,
away.
it's funny, like you say, not to brag, and that's a confidence thing, man. Like,
Well, because I don't want to sit over here like I'm Mr. Ass-Getter or something,
right,
but
and there's something that, I think that's something you struggle with, and that's something I struggle with, is being confident in yourself and saying, there was girls that liked me, that I turned away. There's nothing cocky or arrogant about that. There's nothing wrong with being confident
but we live in a society now where everybody gets the most ass.
Overanalyzed.
Everyone wins all the, no, I lose nothing, so I don't want to be one of them assholes.
Right, and
But there were girls back then that I had the opportunity to date, to get to know, to, in some cases, just sleep with.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to keep them away because I'm like, okay, so even if we spend time together and you talk about how you really like me and things are going really well, one day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to get a text that says, I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And my thought process at that point was, look, I've got the rest of my life to get fucked around by some chick, okay? The next few years are going to be school, my buddies. I was in a couple bands in high school. Smoke a joint, put on a Van Halen record, and just chill. I've got the rest of my life to worry about getting ran around by some girl.
And I think you got the right mindset, to be honest with you. Like, that's the time to figure shit out. And I wish I did that. My thing was more chasing that love.
Sure.
I just...
What I didn't want any part of, that's what you were out to get. Polar opposites.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we butted heads.
Because of the same event.
Growing up, if you would have told me we'd be sitting here today doing a podcast together, I'd laugh in your face. Like, me and him sitting in the same room for an hour, you're out of your fucking mind. And I think that the way we were raised had a lot to do with it because, like you said, we were always wrong.
Yep.
And if I was wrong, if you were responsible for me, you'd get the brunt of it. If we, I remember when Mom and Dad went to Bon Jovi.
Oh, shit.
And we decided, I wanted my own room. I wanted to be in the basement. So me, you, our cousin, Chris, decided we're going to move all my twin bed, my dresser, whatever. It was pretty sick, I think. Like, I liked our setup. But they came home, and you would think we knocked out a fucking wall. Because we moved our bed downstairs.
Well, we also did paint the walls and whatever
Wallpaper,
else.
right? Yeah.
You know.
So we fucked up. I'm not denying that we fucked up. I'm saying
You better believe it was the goddamn end of the world, though, man.
that's exactly what I mean. Every little fuck up we made
was the worst.
It was like we blew up a goddamn school.
Yep.
Like
everything.
And I was explaining to Jacqueline the other day, I was going way back. And I started shaking, thinking about things that happened. And that's happened to me a lot lately, thinking about things that happened in the past that I thought, was no big deal. And as I'm talking, I looked at my hands are fucking shaking like crazy. And I'm like, what? And I go back to our trailer. I remember things like kneeling on pencils. Kneeling on pencils because I fucked up.
Yeah.
And then I really start to think about it. We moved into our house when I was 5 years old. So that means I was probably like 4 or 5 when this happened. What kind of fucking monster makes a 4? That's Josie. You think I'm going to make Josie kneel on fucking pencils for 15, 30 minutes?
But you know what? This is where the positive comes out of that. I mean, obviously they are Shayna's children. They're just my stepdaughters, okay? But we don't want them to have to... See, we always hid shit because we figure we'd rather just hide it, and we'll be better off if we just hide it. We don't deal with it. We don't want the girls to have to do that. We don't want them to have to feel like they've got to hide shit from us. Because, okay, it's bad and it happened, but I'd rather lie about it and hide it. This way I'm not going to have to get one of them fucking ridiculous punishments.
Yeah.
Make them feel like they can come to us with anything. Yeah, I get a little pissed about stuff, but, it's more of a, why would you do that? And then it's over with.
Right, and
I'm not ranting and raving around the house for 2-3 hours and getting myself more worked up. And it starts with this, and now you're grounded, and you're getting this take. It's like, you moved a fucking cassette tape, and next thing you know, you're grounded for 6 months.
And the sad part is, dude, I've caught myself doing that.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to do.
I've caught myself going off on Jackson, and I catch myself in the middle of doing it, and I stop. And I look at his face, and it breaks my heart, because that was me. Like, he doesn't understand
what he did wrong.
Yeah.
Why he's getting... That's why, even the smallest thing, even now, is like, you lose your breath and you're like, fuck, what do I do? Oh my God, I'm in so much trouble.
Oh my God, it's
36
hilarious.
years old. Like,
yeah. There's times where in school I'll be telling my story and I'll be out of breath and I'll be like, what the fuck? Like,
you don't even realize, you're like, it got that bad.
And what fucks me up is, like, I'm laughing as I'm crying because I'm 31. Like,
yeah. Like,
what the fuck are you crying about? And it's like...
At some point it would have withered away, but no, it's...
And that's why this podcast has been something I'm so excited about, but it scares me because I know this is going to happen a lot.
Well, what's important is, when I was younger, my Aunt Lisa and Uncle Kevin I was very close with, because Aunt Lisa knew what I dealt with at home, and she wanted to be like that surrogate mother, that, mother who could, like, let her hair down once in a while,
Yeah, Aunt Lisa was always that.
And Uncle Kevin understood my alienation. He was like that when he was my age. So I was very close with both of them. And at least, I don't remember Uncle Kevin doing it, but I remember Aunt Lisa all the time used to say, break the cycle.
And that's something
Don't do your kids the way you were done.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something I've said to Jacqueline is, when I make this, and I don't know, made me think of it, it might have been, I don't know, Game of Thrones, and that's just another thing that, makes you, I start thinking, like, okay, break the wheel. Break the wheel, right? Like, I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a family and kids so bad because I wanted to prove them wrong. I wanted to prove them
and then
that
it could be done.
Yeah. And there were so many people that told me by 30 years old I was going to be dead or in jail. There's so many people that told me you're going to be my garbage man. And there was at one point when I was 18, I was a fucking garbage man.
So what?
But I'm sitting there thinking like,
I'm making better money than you are.
This is vindication for these people though. Like I am a garbage man. Like what the fuck am I doing? But it doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't. Yeah, okay, I'm your garbage man. Whatever. I'm making money.
Yeah.
I could be your garbage man, or I could be your neighborhood hobo. Like, what would you rather me be?
Well, the benefits with being a hobo are better.
Anyway, so here we are.
Lots of vacation time.
You and I butt heads a lot, and I sank into music. This is where music really started to be my voice. But again, I couldn't say that.
Was this before or after all my CDs started disappearing all the time?
Well, this is why your CDs started disappearing over time. Because I think of memories like you said, Enema of the State. And that's a time in my childhood where I was happy.
It was a lot more carefree back then, you know?
I remember a 70-degree day, summertime, you blasting Enema of the State, me waking up and just being like, Mom and Dad are gone all day. I might try to sneak out for a couple hours, make sure I'm home by 3.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not home by 3, and I remember I used to jump Uncle Mike's fence to get home from Adam's house. If I turn that fucking corner of that garage and I see that red Explorer or that Escort.
Why didn't we just think to say he's at Uncle Mike's house?
Oh my God.
Why didn't we think of that? Fuck, we did suck.
And Aunt Terry would have been like, oh, he's here, yeah, for sure. Well, no, they weren't home either.
They were working,
yeah.
He's in Uncle Mike's garage looking for a hockey stick. Uncle Mike said it's cool.
So, yeah, during this divorce, like I said, the music, I remember, I don't know, time-wise, it might have been a year afterwards, 2 years afterwards, whatever, but Stay Together for the Kids.
Oh, yeah. You know what the weird part of it is that CD came out on June 12th of 2001. So that means I had at least a 4-month jump. Right. And it was just fucking weird, man. And like, you jam the album and you think nothing of it, but then one day you put it on and you're like, oh my God. Makes sense now.
That song was my anthem. And I remember seeing, like, when that video starts off, which that video is another thing because I remember it was pulled.
They did pull it, yeah.
Because of 9/11.
Yeah.
And the whole video is just these kids
wrecking a fucking house.
Yeah, this broken home and just beating the fuck out of it. And God, I connected with that.
I don't know, I connected a little more with, that's about the time she broke up with me. That was a little more my speed.
Right. But that's where the music took over for me, and that's where the mindset started to turn. And during the divorce, there was, like I said, there was the shit flying everywhere.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I remember that practice.
The mug.
Yep. Fucking. Please.
And then Travis going off. Travis starts freaking out.
Yeah, because here's my little brother. He's 7, 8.
Did one of us yell at them about that?
I lost my mind over them. A lot. There was a lot of fights that I don't think you were home for because you were older. You got to disappear, and I remember coming out of my room many times.
Well, you know where I was.
Well, you guys shut the fuck up! Like screaming at my parents at this age. Like, how do you expect me to live like this? Like I remember my most vivid memory was that fucking practice mug.
Yeah.
I remember.
That fucker hit the floor.
And I remember running out the house. I remember running the whole way to Jeremiah's house, which was 2 blocks, whatever, jumped a couple fences, but I ran the whole way. He wasn't home. Nobody was home. He was gone for the weekend, whatever. He went to go visit his dad, I believe. And I remember walking back home, and I stayed behind a garage for at least an hour. I just sat there.
It was better than the alternative.
Oh my God, it was so much better. Because, again, I didn't get to see the 2 people that I trusted the most in my life rip each other's heads off.
But you know what that did, though? That showed me my two parents, their personalities, because Dad, I don't know if he loved it or what, but he loved being angry. He was like, he enjoyed being pissed off.
I just think he was a passionate dude. Like,
And
I just think he...
My mother loves to pick the fight.
Oh, my God.
She loves to get the ball because she loves getting another comeback in and getting another comeback in.
But again, it's that passion. It's that passion of, you know, when you
Yeah,
feel
but the
strongly
only passion
about
was
something...
they want to be right. They both want to be right. It's not like they care about each other. They just want to be right.
Exactly. And that's what I'm seeing now. That's what I'm seeing now again today. That's why I think this political climate is bringing up a lot of these old memories. Because it's that division. And it's, sure, I have a side. I mean, like in the divorce, you know, my mom was the one who cheated, so of course I'm going to go to my dad's side. In my eyes, my mom is the one that hurt, even though my dad did something to cause my mom to do it.
But as far as I'm concerned, picking that particular individual, you couldn't have a harder smack in the face than picking that person. Knowing what he meant to, especially our father, but to that whole side of the family. And frankly, at that age, I could have made the choice. I could have either said, because the deal was you and Travis came as a package. Okay, it wasn't going to be one goes with one. No, it was going to be you two together. I was the one that was given the choice, and knowing who he was and what she had pulled, I didn't want anything to do with that.
But at the same time, I was shocked. I thought you were going Mom 100%. Just because I thought you guys, your personalities were similar, and you clashed with Dad a lot.
You know why? Because our personalities are so similar. See, Dad and I, we had our personality, you know, we were both stubborn, very bullheaded. Mm-hmm. But I think Dad saw a lot of Mom in me and my personality and the jokes I would make and the things. I'm a child of the 90s. I love sarcasm. I love irony.
Absolutely.
Dad is a lot more of a straight-laced, no-nonsense kind of, haha, that's funny. Like,
well, what I felt really bad about, too, is Dad was the butt of the joke a lot.
He was. And, you know, Shayna can't believe it. Like, you know that song, Cars by Gary Newman?
Yeah.
Here in my car. Okay, Mom used to walk around the house singing, Keith is a dick,
I told Jacqueline about this.
And she's like, are you serious? She did that? Like, oh yeah, she used to make fun of him right to his face.
But there was times too where
like Machine Head by Bush. I walked for my machine. Yep, that's Keith. Ha 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 ha.
Right.
You know, putting the guy down.
And it used to break my fucking heart, dude. I remember being that old and being like, I never sang that song one time. Because there's like, what are you doing? Like, that's so mean. Like, how are you gonna just, like, this guy's sitting here, he obviously doesn't look happy. He's sitting there like...
That is not a face of joy.
And you're in the kitchen, Keith is a dick. Like, it honestly amazes me that I didn't see my dad strike my mom one time.
It might surprise you, because I didn't find this out until years later, but it might surprise you that Dad actually maybe wanted a little more out of life. He wanted to be an Air Force pilot. I think it was Air Force.
Oh,
he wanted to. I think he was fly for the Air Force, and I found this out sitting in the garage with him and Karen years later. You know, so but again, Dad had what we think were, you know, because everyone's got a fucking disability these days. Everyone's ADD, ADHD, VCR, right. CD. Everyone's got some kind of initial problem. Back then, there was no ADD. Mm-hmm. There was no depression. You know, when
you just got to hear if he just applied himself.
Right. And if you fucked off, special. The teacher let you fuck off. Whatever. Yeah. When Grandpa found out that I was on Ritalin when I was 6,
what
7,
the fuck?
He was not pleased because Grandpa's that generation did not take pills. It was a big deal to get him to take fucking Excedrin, okay? They did not, well, I can't sleep, take this pill. Well, I can't focus, take that pill. So he was not happy.
And don't get me wrong, I am an advocate for medicating if it's necessary. I'm one that I hope I've covered in the first 2 episodes. One thing that I think really kick-started all of this was finally deciding that I need help This is something that's out of my hands, and I need an antidepressant. I need to tell my doctor that I'm having these suicidal thoughts again, and I can't kill myself. I can't do that. Like, I have my kids. I don't want to abandon them.
And that's what's been scaring me and keeping me up a lot at night lately is that, through everything, you could call it victorious now.
Yeah.
No drugs, no alcohol, no legal problems. Oral issues are fixed. I've got gainful employment. I'm doing well in life. I've got a house full of people that love me. A puppy that adores me. It's like a shadow. Follows me around everywhere.
Yeah. That's why I named Shadow.
See, there you go. So that makes sense. Now I'm looking at it from the perspective of, okay, I'm fucking 36 years old. My dad went at 54. His brother went at 51. Okay? That means, at worst, I have 15 years left.
Pause.
That scares me.
That's the mindset that I'm trying to flip. Because I've always thought that, too. Grandpa died at 67, I think it was.
Which, that seems older. Like, he was a lot older than they
Right,
were.
and it's sad to think that 67 is, like, a high score.
Yeah, it really is. I gotta beat that one. I gotta beat 67.
But you know what? That's a mindset, dude. Look at our aunts. Look at Grandma on Mom's side. She's still kicking it. That's for a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
Grandma. God, I love Grandma. So, like you said, it's success.
It feels like success.
Right, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, I got a fucking king-size bed, bro.
Yeah.
Look at this fucking projector
That does look comfortable.
I have things that scream success. But late at night, when I'm sitting there, and I know, like, I should be proud of what I've accomplished, I don't feel it. And that's the scary part. Because I am not self-fulfilled. I have spent so much time trying to prove other people wrong, carrying around this chip on my shoulder that I'm going to prove you wrong, that I didn't get to find out what I really liked, what I was really passionate about, because I was too worried about telling them to fuck off.
Yeah.
And that's the wrong mindset. Get them out of your mind. Who cares what they think? Who cares what they're saying? What makes you happy?
Well, it was basically the same mindset of sobriety. Is you can't get sober for your brother. You can't get sober for your kids. You can't get sober for your parents. You have to do it for you. Because if you find yourself doing it for other people, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Which is the same thing as this. You have to do it for yourself, make yourself happy. Never mind what the in-laws think. Never mind what the kids down the street think. You got to do it so that you're happy. You're not hurting anyone else. You're not peddling kids. You're not moving drugs. You got a good thing happening.
Right. But it's the deal of I've made all these things happen while wearing this mask. One of thousands of masks. But when it comes down to it, this is me taking that mask off. This is me saying I'm finally stable enough, even though I'm breaking down crying. You know what? I'm gonna put that on there. A year ago I would not have cried in front of you. I'm too much of a man. I can't cry in front of you.
Yeah, well, I don't like how other people get to define what manhood is.
Yeah.
You don't get to define my manhood. You don't get to define my patriotism. You don't get to define any of that shit. I define that.
Exactly. Say it again.
Do you really want me to say it?
But that's exactly
it's your show.
Like, I've used the perspective of, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing ever. What is a good husband? What is it that the women look for in a husband? And I look at these...
Well, that's going to vary from woman to woman.
Exactly. But when I find, which I've found, my rock, she gives me that family love that I've always earned for. She gives me that romantic love I've always earned for. She completes everything inside of me, and yet I'm hollow.
Yeah. And it's tough to hear you say after all these years because... I got a lot of the same stuff going on, and it worries me that if you still feel this way after how many years now? 12, 13, 14?
Oh, I think we've been married? Well, we've been together for going to be 14 years.
Okay, almost 14 years now. I'm nearly 4 into mine, and it's like, am I gonna feel this way like forever?
That's a struggle, man.
Because what we have is the anti-mom. I got someone that always wants to sit and talk about this and our feelings that, and it's like, I don't really know how to do that. When I was growing up, you're fucking wrong, go to your room.
Kids
and then you just didn't talk about it again. You know?
And it's gotten to the point where I'm sick of being negative. I'm sick and fucking tired
It drains you.
of flipping through the channels and being like, look at this fucking idiot, look at this idiot, judging. I have become everything I've scared that I said I wouldn't become.
Well,
So judgmental, and back in my day, well, the way I did it, but you know what? My way was fucking hard, and it didn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
So
I find myself saying that, you know, because you got little kids, they don't really eat, you know, they want their particular 2 or 3 dishes that they'll eat, and that's it.
yeah.
So I'm finding myself saying, oh, well, this isn't Elias Brothers. You don't have menus here. You eat what's in front of you. But that's how we were raised.
And I used to fucking hate when they'd say that.
Right.
So don't say it. And it's just that constant.
Now it's more of like, you should try it. It's really good. Look, I'm eating it. Why don't you give it a try?
Right.
No, you're going to eat that. You're going to bed hungry. You know?
So
break the cycle.
Yeah.
Break the cycle.
The divorce happens. We move into King's Arms, which I think I got lucky. I think Dad realized how much my friends meant to me. Mind you, well,
there was still hope for you at that point.
Right.
You know?
I'm 13, 14, whatever. I need my friends. At this point, my family's non-existent. So, we are now living in an apartment, 2-bedroom apartment.
With 4 people.
Yep. Mr. Brandon Knoll himself got his own bedroom. So that left me in a bedroom with my little brother and my father. That was not easy being a teenager, sharing a room with your dad and little brother.
By shadow.
Yeah. So, of course, why the fuck would I want to be there? Like, I have no personal space whatsoever, and I'm going through puberty. Like, that's the last place you want to be, is in a room with your dad.
With my American Idiot album under your dresser. How'd that get there? I don't know.
That album means more to me than you. I'll explain why that album means so much to me. So it's not normal for 3 boys to be raised by a dad.
Right.
It's not especially our dad. That was that motorcycle ride and lips disappearing, goatee, scream at you, motherfucker, like.
Well, thank God he's not alive for this pandemic. Oh boy.
Yeah, so he gave me the independence that I've learned about during the divorce. He let me go run. And I think, like we were just talking about outside, you think it's because he wanted... Go ahead.
When in that neighborhood growing up, it was, you know, back in the day, you know, everyone used to know each other. You knew your neighbors, you knew your friends' parents. It really was like it looked like on that 70s show, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure a lot of them knew Mr. Knoll, you know. There were 2 of Dad's friends that married into the family. So a lot of these people they all knew each other. They were really close. So they could go 2 streets over and they could have people over. And it's because for the most part, either the parents didn't know what was going on or they felt better knowing that, because, you know, like Grandpa used to work afternoons. So it was just Grandma Knoll at the house. So you could have 2 or 3 of your buddies over and smoking a joint or something, you know? Mm-hmm. You could do that back then. That's not to say Dad still didn't get in trouble, because he did. But on the flip side of that, with our mom growing up, it was everyone had to be in the house, couldn't have friends over. You know, you had to sit in the backyard. So it was two completely different worlds. And I think Dad always wanted to give us some of that independence, but our mother wouldn't have it. And he wasn't going to go through the argument, you know.
And it was, they grew up differently like that.
Completely different.
My mom, when she was growing up, she raised us like how she was growing up, and Dad raised us how he grew up. Not saying that one was right or the other, it's just what each of them knew. And it's that, I think Mom had that fear.
Not fear. She wanted the control. She wanted to know where you were 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Everything. And it took away that fun aspect. You
know?
But
I think she wanted that control because of fear. Maybe. I don't know. Like I said, this is all speculation. It's not here nor there. To be honest, for this whole thing to come full circle with me, I'd love to do this with Mom.
Oh, boy.
I mean, for me, that's the closure I think I need to finally put this to rest and
I can already
really
tell you how
focus
that's
on me.
End, so I don't know.
It'll probably again, that's mindset. I like to think that my mom would like to be Mom. I'd like to think that she'd like to do that. Now I'd like to get to the part of the story of where the exhale came in when I said I'd like to think that Mom would like to do that. And this is the part of my life that I struggle the most with, and this is the part of my life that I feel like an old friend is visiting lately. Not so much lately, but it did. Like that old friend returned about a year ago. 2 years ago. So, Dad let me run free. I wasn't in any drugs. Girls was another thing. I was looking for that companion, that codependency. But yeah, really, I was just looking for that community. Like, when I was running free, running the streets was hanging out in my friend's basement.
Yeah.
Playing video games, eating dinner with their family.
Kid stuff, yeah.
Yeah. You know, and God, like, one of my heroes, I guess you could say, is Jeremiah's mom. From an early age did she teach me right and wrong, or did she teach me values? Some yes, some no, but the fact that she was there was enough. What she taught me is irrelevant. She cared.
Yeah.
And that's all that's all I wanted. And it's funny how I think about Jeremiah's mom. I think about my ex-girlfriend, Allie, her parents. Basically all my ex-girlfriend's family, even the last girlfriend I had before Jacqueline. I only met her parents a handful of times, but God, her dad was fucking hilarious. And it's just one of those things where it's like, why do I get along with everybody else's parents that I really try to connect with? They love me. And I'm like, why do I not get this from my own parents?
It's strange because I had that realization myself. Like there were a couple of girls that I would go hang out at their house when they weren't even there. They might have been at work or something.
Right.
My first girlfriend, Brienne, I used to go to her house and hang out with her brother and his girlfriend. It was, and for the most part, parents, aside from a couple of instances that I can think of, parents tended to like me. Unfortunately, sometimes it was for the wrong reason, because I was not the other guy that they were bringing home.
Right. You weren't
the alternative.
Right.
But nonetheless, it felt good,
It felt good feeling like you had an advantage on kids your age because you've been through more. Or so you thought. You felt more mature, and I think that allowed you to talk to parents easier. Yeah. And when I remember having friends be like, you need to go talk to them. You need to go ask. Why me? Like, because you know how to talk to them better. Even to this day, like, I remember having Comcast and friends being like, you need to call. You need to call and bitch them out because you know how to talk to people. And I used to say, I don't know how to talk to people. Like, back then I thought I'm myself. Like, I'm not trying to be anything. I'm just talking. So again, getting off base. Dad lets me run free for a while. I think it was because he was depressed himself.
I could believe that.
I think he was dealing with his own demons, and I think he knew where we were because he had lived in this area his whole life, and I think he knew that I'd be okay. I think he knew I had a strong enough head on my shoulders that whatever, you'll be safe. Once I think he finally snaps out of that, he wanted to hone me back in. And at that point, that's when I was like, no. No, like, you're not, now that I'm 15, 16, whatever, now that I'm a little bit older, like I'm your age when all this kind of started, I found my own way. Like, I found my own family. They're not blood, and I got that a lot. I can't tell you how many times I heard blood is thicker than water.
Yeah.
And how many times I said, you're so wrong. You have no idea. I can't tell you how many of my insecurities come from my family. And that being said, there's some people in our family that are so supportive, and I feel bad, and I think that's why I have such a hard time getting this out, because I realize how wrong I was back then, and I realize they should have been pissed off at me for the way I was acting.
But I can remember Uncle Mike chasing you down one time.
And that's one of the stories I was going to get to was to bring it full circle to that story. I don't know if you remember boot camp.
Vaguely.
My dad and I were at each other's necks constantly. And I think that's because we just couldn't understand each other. We had such identical personalities that we clashed a lot. And one time he told me, hey, we're going to go camping this weekend. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because part of me, this is what I think fucked me up the most. Because people had a hard time believing me that I wanted to reconnect with my family. I wanted that bond again. So when he told me, your friends can come. You can bring whoever you want. I told my friends, I was like, no, I really need to just have some time with my family. I need to get back on track. This is getting out of control. So we pack up the car, clothes are in the car. He goes, why don't you sleep in the back on the way up there? I'm like, okay, cool. So it's just me, Travis, and Dad. Next thing I know,
when this was going on. Where the hell was I?
Next thing I know, I have a drill sergeant in my face. Get the fuck out of the car. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I look at Dad like, what the fuck is going on? And he just looks at me, and he's got tears in his eyes. And he's just shaking his head. And next thing I know, I'm on this basketball court doing fucking jumping jacks.
Oh, boy.
And I look behind, and Dad's not there. And I'm like, what?
Did you figure out it wasn't camping yet?
Yeah, we're not camping. So now that there's drill sergeants there, they start saying, this is mid-course correction. You are here because you deserve to be here. You are here because you've lost your way, blah, blah, blah. And a reason why I don't remember a lot of it is because I'm stunned. My heart's fucking broken. I was finally vulnerable enough to tell my friends to fuck off. I want to go spend time with my family. And I'm abandoned again. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Dude, I was scared shitless. I have no idea where I am. I have no idea how long I'm going to be here. These people, they wouldn't tell you what time it was. I remember slamming water bottles. They made you slam 2 or 3 at once to the point of throwing up. And they made you throw up. It was so bad that because they had to keep you hydrated because of the shit they were having you do.
Yeah.
I remember reading recently, I went on Facebook, I just started thinking about it. This is right around the time I started this whole Comebackid thing. And I couldn't think of the name of the place. And finally it clicked, mid-course correction. I looked it up. And the horror stories on this website.
Yeah.
And they were saying, how, you have 35, 40-year-old people on there that's saying they still deal with it on a daily basis. the traumatic experience it was. And I remember thinking, like, it wasn't that bad. Like, it was bad, but I remember by the end of it, I was like, that was kind of cool. But at the end, during it, that sense of abandonment, that sense of, I have this guy in my face. To be honest, I thought I was there for 6 months. 6 to 9 months. By the second day, that's what I just figured. That second night, somebody pissed in the shower.
Oh, boy.
And again, you don't know what time it is. I know, it's dark outside. They wake us all up, and we're doing push-ups, push-ups, push-ups. Mind you, I'm dead. Like, I did so many fucking push-ups the day before.
Your body is jello.
My body hurts so bad, and you can't stop. If they stop, they grab you by your shirt, and they slam you up and down off the ground.
Oh, boy. Boy, this sounds encouraging.
Oh, my God. And it was... So it was to the point where I shut the fuck up. Like, I'm thinking, like... Again, I'm from Sterling Heights, dude. Like, I don't do anything, like... I'm not breaking the law, per se.
Yeah.
Like,
You're just not listening.
I'm a runaway. You know, I don't like to listen to my dad. Like... So now, like, I feel abandoned. Like, I'm stuck in... He was supposed to pack a pillow and a blanket, which he didn't. And so I'm thinking, like, okay, they'll give me one. They didn't give me one.
Nope.
We had to do things like run through the swamp. My clothes were stinky, smelly. I had to sleep on them. Oh. That was my pillow. That was my blanket. I watched them tell a kid to start running. Because the kid, I mean, he was a bad kid. You know, he was dealing with his own shit. He was being a smart mouth. He wanted to go home. They said, you want to go home? Start running. Give you a 10-second head start. Whatever they said, there was a certain time head start. Because, like, I'm not going to run. I have no fucking idea where I am. Because we're literally in the middle of the woods.
Right.
You have no idea where you are. Once it started getting closer to 0, I think he got down to, like, 5. Fucking kid starts running. Because it's the anxiety of, like, what do I do? This guy's counting. He told me to run. When I haven't listened to this guy, he's fucked me up. So he runs. I watched 3 drill sergeants tackle this kid to the ground.
Jeez.
Just like, I mean, if you think of chasing a guy in the NFL, like that's what happened to this kid. They pick him up. They throw his ass in the swamp. And I'm just sitting here watching all this, like, where the fuck am I? Like, what did I do? Again, what did I do that was so bad that warranted this? So I learned a lot. I remember Dad coming to pick me up, and we had to do this whole thing, like, where we marched about left, about right, about face, did our knots. And I remember looking at Dad, and he was biggest tears in his eyes. He came up to me and gave me the biggest hug. And you'd think that would, you know, that's what I always wanted.
Sure.
I was dark now. I have turned evil now. Motherfucker, like, Mom abandoned me when I was 12. I was ready to be vulnerable with you again, finally, and you destroyed that. I will never trust you again. And it's funny, because looking back, you know, I remember coming home and my friends laughing, like, no way, you're dead. And I was wondering where the fuck you went. Like, I didn't know what happened. Nobody had no idea. I could not lift my arms. I remember I couldn't sleep for like 5 nights because I couldn't get comfortable. Like, I had to sleep with my arms up like this on my bed, over my head, because my arms hurt so bad. And I had a reporter interview me about this recently, and she asked me, you know, would you ever send your kid to it? And I really stopped and thought about it, because that was the point in my life when I realized I was the only one I could depend on. I got through what I thought was going to fucking kill me. And that was the point of that camp. You
don't think they could have gone about it a little bit better of a way?
And it's like, you don't realize what you just created.
I mean, throwing a motherfucker in a swamp?
You just created confidence in me that I don't need fucking any other person in this world but me. No matter how arrogant that might sound. So, like, he thought he was doing the right thing, and I guess in a way he did, but to answer her question, no, I would not send my kid there again. because of the trauma it has caused. That being said, it's a contradiction because that place made me one of the... that's the place that made me strong. That's the place that gave me that armor that you can't hurt me. I won't let you hurt me. I survived hell. So when I came back, yeah, everything was good for like 2 weeks. Then I don't know if you remember something that I still struggle with you to this day. And that was the time that I decided to get ass-hammered drunk for the first time.
Oh, shit.
I was trying to impress this girl.
Yeah, I know where this is going.
In my the first time I mean, don't get me wrong, I drank here and there, maybe a beer, whatever. I must have drank a fifth of whatever the fuck I get my hands on.
So, or as I used to call it, Tuesday.
So, like, I'm at this party, the first party that I've ever really been invited to and showed up to, because when they were married, the sleepovers, the birthday parties, the skate world, wasn't going to happen.
If you were allowed to go, you had to get there an hour after everyone else and leave before an hour before everyone else. So there was no point.
Fuck. Lost my train of thought.
Choo choo.
So yeah,
interesting sidebar. Do you remember when your nickname was Choo Choo Bina growing up?
Yeah.
Okay. Continue. Every time you say train, I think of Choo Choo Bina.
So I got drunk to the point where the only thing I remember about that, I remember blurps. I remember being on the side of this kid's pool, throwing up. I remember Steve showing up. Thank God somebody called Steve and they got me out of there. I showed up to Steve's house. Steve's mom, who never liked me to begin with, I just gave her all the proof she needed that I'm a piece of shit.
Oh, boy.
He needs to get out of here. You need to call his dad. I go, call my brother. Just whatever you do, don't call my dad. Call my brother. So they call you, and what do?
What? What did I do?
Call Dad.
Well, I didn't know you were drunk. I thought you were legitimately sick. You stupid ass.
Okay, well, in my mind, because we had such a strife growing up, and this was, again, my time where I'm like, okay, if I'm going to have that connection with my brother, this is it. This is the one time I'm drunk where, you see in the movies and shit, the older brother bails you out.
Which I would have if I would have known that was the case.
Which helps, because this is something I've struggled with. Next thing I know...
If I would have known you were hammered drunk, I would have went and got you something to eat or something. But I figured the safest way out of it for all of us was, I think he's legitimately sick.
Which is fair, because to be honest, at that age and the amount of alcohol I consumed, alcohol poisoning was probably borderline.
Right. Because didn't someone give me a can of Pepsi to sniff, and I'm like, it smells like Pepsi. I feel like somebody gave me a can of Pepsi, and I was like... No,
I remember
he's drinking Pepsi.
I don't remember whose fucking car it was, but I was hanging out the back window. That's all I remember. So,
because I had to do something. If you would have been legitimately sick and something would have happened to you and I would have known about it, I would have never been able to live it down.
Right.
If something would have happened to you, so I had to cover with something.
Perspective. I thought you didn't give a fuck and you just wanted to rat me out.
No, that's why I went with. I think he's legitimately sick.
So
like he's not doing good.
Which makes sense. But back then and up until this point. Again, abandonment. I trusted this kid. Even though we never really got along, this is a bond that we should have. That we should be able to bail each other out if we're fucked. And I felt abandoned again. And I remember Dad cold cocking me for being drunk. And I remember being able to go out the next day. Because he knew the hangover was enough.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I heard that when I was 17 and we had that little party before he moved out, we were drinking, and I finally went to bed about 3 a.m. And I laid down into bed, and I felt kind of weird, and I opened my eyes, and the clock on my VCR was doing this. It was spinning.
Yeah.
Motherfucker. So I get up. I didn't even make it out of the window. Just threw up everywhere on my wall. Next morning, I get up, have a Mountain Dew, which I don't know how I got away with that, because, Dad and his Mountain Dew. It sounded like the right thing to do, so I had some Mountain Dew. Next thing you know, I'm throwing up again. Oof. And he comes in the bathroom, he goes, "You know what you need? Another beer." No.
And that's what I love about him. Like,
he knows.
yeah, he knows what you're
Dad
going
was
through.
never a drinker. He was never a big drinker. But the one thing that I do remember him saying was, those Vicodins, they should make you go through those withdrawals. And I'm like, no, Dad, you don't understand.
Right.
Those withdrawals are hell.
So, it must not have been much long after that. This is where I think PTSD and shit's a real thing. It's something that I never really believe. It's something that I thought was like a military thing. Like, if you come back from war, PTSD is something that, It
used to just be called shell shock.
A soldier would come back with. I didn't think PTSD is something that I could potentially. I'm not saying I have it, but I'm saying that I have a lot of symptoms of it.
Sure.
So he kicks me out. This is something that becomes a revolving door over the next year and a half.
To the point where I had to bail him out of jail that one night.
And that's a huge story that breaks my heart to this day. Because again, misunderstood, abandoned.
Yeah.
That day.
You weren't going to win no matter what on that one.
No. And that's something that fucks with me to this day. I remember being at Jeremiah's house, and I remember Dad pulling up. And I walk outside, and do you remember like that tie-dye fucking like laundry bag thing?
Yep.
Whips it on their front lawn. He goes, "You think you can do this shit on your own? Good fucking luck."
That's such a dad thing to say, too.
I said, "I never said I could do it on my own, Dad." What did he do? He fucking charges me. Knocks me to the ground. "You think you're so fucking tough? You think you know it all."
Oh, yeah.
Holly's mom was there. Holly Custodio's mom was Philly's mom was there.
Yeah.
And so was Jeremiah's mom. And they're watching this unfold from the kitchen, or from their house, inside the house. Jeremiah's mom sees Dad just fucking linebacker check me to the ground.
He was a badass like that, wasn't he?
And to this point, I'm used to this dude. Dad has whooped my ass more times than I can count.
Yeah.
So what do? I get up. I get up, and I'm not gonna hit you, Dad. I looked at him. I'm not gonna fight you. He goes, "Come on, you're so fucking tough," and he throws me to the ground again.
Yep.
What do? I look at the ground. I stand up. I go, "Dad, I don't want to fight you." Boom! Again to the ground.
Yep.
Finally, Jeremiah's mom comes outside. "Don't you put another fucking hand on him." He goes, "Oh, what are you gonna do? You enable this bullshit. You let him just fucking flop here," and they get into it.
Yep.
And then Betty Ann comes outside, and they get into it. I go, "Guys, stop. Fucking stop. I'm so sick of this fighting. Knock it off." And he goes, "You love these people so much. They're your family. Congratulations, they're your family." And he leaves. And I'm heartbroken again. What the fuck does this guy not understand? I'm running away from you guys because this is what you do to me. This is every day. Sure, this is, things boiling over and I fuck up a lot. I understand that, but why do I fuck up? What lessons was I taught that made me fuck up as much as I did? Everything I learned from you. My mentality came from you. You've sent me to this fucking boot camp to show me how to stand on my own. I'm standing on my own. And he resented that. And it's to the point where I'm like, what do you want?
Well, all I remember about that is one day we're at the apartment and I don't know, I can't verbalize exactly because it doesn't make much sense to me, but it was he kicked you out but then tried to claim you were a runaway.
That's what I mean by the revolving door.
Okay.
This happened 5-6 times.
So all of a sudden, I don't know where the hell you went, but he was going to go get you or something, or he was going to chase after you. So it was Travis and I in the apartment, and I have my reasons for why I think this went down, but I'll get into that. All of a sudden, a cop shows up, and I remember him standing out there arguing with the cop.
Betty Ann called the cops.
Okay, so
which I asked her not to.
The cop showed up, and he's, Dad was, "You're not going to tell me how to raise my kid, blah, 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 blah." And the cop warned him and said, "Sir, if you take one more step, I'm going to have to place you under arrest." So sure enough, Dad goes to start walking. Next thing you know, he's on the ground.
No way.
Yeah. So Travis starts freaking out. I'm like, what the fuck do I do now? So when he finally got to jail and he got his call, And I've been in that Sterling Heights jail. It ain't no fucking fun.
Mm-hmm.
Boring as shit. So he calls me, and I think he wanted this to go down because you remember when he lost his job at Data?
Mm-hmm.
That one summer where it was just anything went, and he cashed out his 401k. I think he was just looking for excuses to blow that money. And he called me up, and he told me to take his bank card. It was TCF Bank.
Because with money comes power. Remember that.
I think he just wanted to blow it. He that was his way of getting out of that funk. Was, I'm going to be running to Lapeer every weekend, and, I'm going to buy new fucking furniture.
The Lapeer is another thing, too. You got to remember, too, Dad wasn't home on the weekends.
He wasn't. And you know what? I used to have Brienne and her friends over.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have...
How often did you see me on the weekends?
Almost never. And I loved it, especially when they went to Florida, when him and Travis went to Florida.
See,
I had that fucking apartment to myself for a week and a half.
Yeah.
I had all my friends over. I had my girlfriend over. I had her friends over. And so that was that, when you couldn't do any right, all of a sudden I couldn't do any wrong. Mm-hmm. Which was weird for me, too, because I could never do anything right by Dad for all those years.
But you were home.
Now, all of a sudden, I'm working 2 jobs. I eventually started going to school, which he paid the $50 for the entrance test or whatever. So, I could do no wrong. I could stay out all night. I remember him waking up for work one morning when he still worked at Data. He got up at 4. And, he's no dummy. And he gets up, I'm stumbling out of his room in his whitey tighties, and I just walked in the door. And he comes walking out of the room, he goes, "What are you doing up?" "Oh man, Dave's aunt died. He's not doing so hot right now, sweet. I decided to stay out with him all night." Oh, coked out like a son of a bitch, man. I must have paid for half the economy of Ecuador that night. But he never said anything. Never said anything.
So you know what you were experiencing, man.
I was coked out in that apartment. The only time he ever really came down on me was the Vicodin. And one of the guys, when we worked together at a bookbindery, a factory, years ago. And, I got to know the people in the shop fairly well. We didn't always work side by side, but, sometimes he'd be over there, I'd be over there. Well, there was one guy that ran a machine who had the 500 Vicodins. So the lowest of the... Yeah. And I hadn't really been taking them. And so he gives me one, and I'm on top of the fucking world again. I feel great. I'm like, da-da-da-da-da. All of a sudden, he comes up to my machine, and he taps me on the shoulder. He goes, "Let's go have a cigarette."
He was watching you.
Oh, I think he knew. So, he found out somehow, because he's no dummy. So we go in the bathroom, and because we're not supposed to smoke in the bathroom anymore, so I found it kind of weird. So we walk in there, and he goes around and looks over here.
Hang on, pause. That's Dad's personality right there. Not supposed to smoke in the bathroom anymore. Fuck it, come on, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because he wanted to yell at me. I didn't know that. He wanted to yell at me, but he didn't want to yell at me in front of everybody.
Right.
So we go in there, and just walks in there, take my cigarettes out, light one up. He looks over by the toilet. Nobody's in here, over by the lockers. He gets right up in my shit. "I don't want you taking those Vicodins." I'm like, how the fuck does he know? Like,
put you on blast. We're like, how you know is irrelevant. He knows.
He knows, yeah. He knows. So, if I would have been, because I was, 22? If I would have been smart, I would have said, you know what? He's probably right.
Yeah.
If I had a dime for every time in my life I found myself in a bad situation and thought, you know what?
I told you so. It's that I told you so.
Yeah.
And that, again, is another thing. So you were 22, 17, so I'm skipping a lot.
Yeah.
So,
like, you're home every morning when I get up.
So I find, like I said, I found my family and my friends. I had so many friends started taking me in even before things got really bad. So it gets to the point where Dad's done, where he throws the shit out there, blah blah blah. So I'm going to move in with Mom. So we do this thing where we go to the courthouse.
Oh, this is going to be another episode. Oh, man.
Where we go to the courthouse to where my mom now has rights over me or whatever, which I find really interesting now. Anyway, and I remember going through those motions and just being so sad. Just being so sad that
Because I think a part of you knew what you were going to have to give up now.
Yeah, because now I knew I was losing everything.
Yep.
And Dad was still so angry. I think Dad was sad, but the only way he knew how to show that was anger.
Yep. Well, that was his emotion.
So he tried to fight me again outside the courthouse. And I just jumped in the car. I rolled down the window a little bit. I go, Dad, just so you know, today's the day you broke my heart. And I rolled it back up. And
how did that go over?
He walked away shaking his head. And I didn't talk to Dad for about a year after that. And I had so much, I can't tell you how many times I cussed out Dad to my friends, to everybody. I had such a fucking prick. I don't have a dad anymore. Blah, blah, blah. That only lasted about 6 weeks. And I say that because Mom gave me the promise that if I kept my grades up, she would let me stay at Stevenson. And to me, that was a huge deal. There was something about Stevenson and our family history there. And
there's still something about Stevenson to me whenever I drive by that
it
feels like home.
Yeah, and just because that's something you can relate to with a bunch of people in our family, whether it's teachers or the wall where they went to go smoke or whatever. That's something, you're holding on to that tradition. And that was getting wiped away from me. And my friends were getting wiped away from me. And I was having a really hard time dealing with that. The part where it got really ugly is when Mom would go to work. Mom worked afternoons at this point. She'd go to work at like 3:30. So I was stuck in that trailer with that guy for a year. I learned a lot about this motherfucker. He was a drunk. He was abusive. Not to me. There was one time he decided to try it.
Yeah. One time.
But like I remember things like Mom pulling those trailer steps away from the trailer and just bottles upon bottles of 5 o'clock vodka falling out.
Under the trailer and shit.
But this guy would fuck with me constantly. Fuck with me mentally constantly. To the point where I'd wake up and there would be fucking sticky notes everywhere. Fucking everywhere.
Yes.
Clean this, clean that, clean... And I'm thinking the whole, I don't like to show my anger to people. This guy's letting me stay in this house. No matter how much I fucking despise this guy for destroying my family, it's his place. He would sit on the computer every night. This is back in the time of dial-up internet.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a cell phone. So every single night, no mom, stuck in this trailer with this guy that destroyed my family, having no outlet. I'm not going to walk from 16 in Groesbeck to 16 in Dodge Park every day.
That's a good 3-4 hour walk.
Yeah.
At least.
Don't get me wrong, I tried. I tried a couple times.
I did it, and I'll tell you why in a little bit.
And it got to the point where I just didn't want to live anymore. I was just this room that I just lived in for a year was this tiny little fucking trailer bedroom that had a bunk bed, and it had this fucking cheap ass entertainment center, to the point where the only walking room was to open the door and then to walk in front of the bed.
Yeah.
That was my world for a long time. And I didn't want it to be anymore. And I didn't have Dad. I didn't have that side of the family because I was the biggest piece of shit in the world. Mom was nowhere to be found, so it was just me and this guy, and I'm like, what am I living for? This is a nightmare. Luckily, I was a complete fucking idiot and tried swallowing a whole package of fucking Benadryl or whatever was left in it. And I still have the note. I thought about getting the note out of my stuff. But I remember I wrote a note saying how sorry I was, how trapped I felt.
Carry on. Preach. Preach. He can mad at this.
It's scary because these feelings came back.
I'm reminded of a quote that says, "Finding what you're looking for can be such a bore." I think because of what we've dealt with all these years, we have ascended that fucking hill. And we got what we wanted all these years. And we don't know how to handle it now.
Yeah,
we don't
exactly.
we don't know how to be happy with it because we wanted it so long and it always seems so far away.
And I'm just waiting for
We got
that
it now.
thing to happen where it all falls apart.
Yep, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But you know what? That's also the way we were raised. That's mom right there. That's mom. Just can't be happy with it. There's always something, lurking around
Not good
the
enough.
corner.
Not good enough.
Yep.
So yeah, I leave a note saying I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I love you. And I went to sleep.
Red Bull.
Huh?
Call Travis.
So I go to sleep expecting not to wake up ever again.
Right.
I do. Mom's sitting on my bed, and she says, we're gonna get you some help. And I'm like, finally. Like, it took me swallowing up. What if it was Vicodin? What if it was...
Well, it didn't work the way I was kind of hoping either.
We'll get to that story, because that's, again, perspective.
You might have to do that part next week.
Yeah.
We're running long already, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet.
So, she calls Dr. Rodriguez.
He's Paul Rodriguez.
Who was our therapist beforehand for a while back in the day. He's in Florida now or something, she says. That's the end of it.
Yep.
That's the end of my help.
Yep.
And I remember sitting there just like, I tried to kill myself and it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And then that fuel, that chip came back. I survived death. Let's fucking go. I was given a second chance. Let's wake up. And that's a scary thing to hold on to. Because it makes you think when you're in that place again, try it again. And if you survive it again, it's
No, it's not.
But, and I understand that, but when you're depressed, you don't think straight. You don't think logically.
No, you don't.
But anyway...
Because you're going to think tomorrow is just like today was. And the
right,
day
it's just never going to end.
Yeah.
So sometimes, and again, this time in my life is so blurry, and that's why it's based on a true story, because I'm trying to get as close as I can to what I remember. Not long after that, I'm in Chippewa now. My first day at Chippewa, I wear my Stevenson roller hockey jersey.
Oh, boy.
Because I got a fucking point to prove. This isn't my school. But not long after that, I just stopped going.
Yep. Because I'm pretty sure Mom started bitching to me about this, too. And I'm like, and you want me to do what exactly?
She just, and that's, again, just being misunderstood. Like, I'm abandoned again. And I'm only fucking 16 years old, 16 years old. I'm surrounded by these people that don't know anything about me or what I've been through.
Probably don't even want to.
No.
Yeah.
So one night comes along, I'm watching Miracle, the movie Miracle, the USA movie, on the computer, and Mom comes out, she goes, it's time to go to bed, you got school tomorrow. I go, there's 10 minutes left in the movie, can I just finish it? She goes, okay, fine. She walks back into the bedroom, he comes out, walks up to the computer right up next to me, fucking turns it off. It's fucking bedtime. So I take the fucking disc out, I slam the disc drive shut, I go to stand up, he grabs me like this. He goes, don't you ever, around my neck, tight. He goes, don't you ever fucking slam any of my shit again. What do? Boom!
Slam him.
Right in his fucking face I go, don't you ever fucking touch me like that again. You are not my father. Nobody will fucking touch... And I lose my shit. I walk to my room. I punch the fucking door off the hinges.
Oh,
I
yeah,
go, I
that
can't believe this motherfucker put his hands on me. You ruined my life once. Don't you dare put your fucking hands on me again. And I'm losing my shit, dude. I'm screaming. I'm blacked out at this point. I'm seeing red. I tell Mom, you gotta choose right now. This piece of shit drunk motherfucker or your son. Because I'm not gonna try to kill myself in this fucking house again. You either get him out of here or I'm leaving. I'm done. She goes, no child is going to tell me how to run my life.
Oh, yeah.
I laugh. I giggle. I start crying and I giggle. I go, that's it. I give up. I called my friend Jordan. I said, I don't know where I'm going to be walking, but you need to find me. And this is late at night, like fucking 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
What happens? I'm not even down the street yet. And my friend and her mom are there to come pick me up and take me home. And I'm just like, why is it that everybody will show me this compassion, but the people that I want to show it to me?
Because you want them to, that's why.
And this was a mind fuck for the longest time. But I think swinging on him finally showed Dad, like, what the fuck was it? What I was about. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but even just, like, defending myself in that moment woke me up again. And it was just this constant, like, struggle, get past it. Struggle, get past it. Struggle, get past it.
And you get tired of it, but you get used to it after a certain
And it
point.
builds your character like a motherfucker. And that's one thing that I will die on the sword of. You can't bend what I stand for, and you can't bend my heart. Those are the two things.
To stand for.
I might not be the funniest guy, I might not be the fastest guy, but nobody has a heart like mine. And I'll die on that. Because the empathy I have for these people that have gone through any kind of struggle like this. Like I said, like when's the last time you seen me cry? When Dad died?
Yeah. And you know what else is ironic about that? That is the only time that I can remember, going back years, of my mother showing me any kind of, like, real. Because when I came outside and said he's gone, she reached out and gave me a hug. Like, that is the only thing that I can think of for years. But then, within hours of that, it was already,
Yep.
I wasn't featured enough in the pictures. Mom, you wanted out of this family for fucking 20 years. Like, what?
That blew my mind. Anyway.
And then to throw me out that day, it just goes to prove, like, it is what it is.
So this is... So I hit that motherfucker. I started rekindling with Dad again. But that was when I got to go back to Stevenson. So things started to turn back around. I'm at Stevenson now. I remember seeing all my friends when I showed back up. Like, where have you been? What happened? Because I wasn't talking to anybody.
Yeah.
I just disappeared. But that joy of having everybody around, what the fuck is school?
Yeah.
I don't care about Algebra 2. My friends are back. My family's back. And it got to that point where I was at school and I got called into the office because my grades weren't great, whatever. I had already been in trouble once or twice. They just went, you're not going to make it. Like, 10th grade was such a wash for me because of switching schools and they didn't know how to apply credit. So my 10th grade didn't exist. So here I am a year and a half away from graduating. I fucked off in my freshman year a little bit. I have like 5-6 credits maybe. Yeah. And I need 22 to graduate.
It was something like that. Yeah, it was 20 something.
I was fucked. That. I knew I was fucked. I was trying everything I could.
You had to have 4 years of English to begin with.
Right, and I missed a year. So I don't even know what I was trying to do. But I was fucking trying to do it. I was trying to prove that all I needed was this school and I'll get back on track. One day, my friend comes into the lunchroom, sits down on his girlfriend's lap. I say, well, we know who the bitch is in that relationship. He throws his Coke all over me. I don't know what it was. I was having a bad day because he was my friend. We're still friends to this day. I jumped the table and beat the fuck out of him. I have a couple teachers pull me off of him.
You're a violent son of a bitch, you know that?
But that's that anger built up in me.
Yeah.
And that was the final straw, I guess. I got suspended for, I think it was like a week or 2 weeks. This is, again, that abandoning part that fucks with my head. I come back to school. We have count day. That's the day where, they give you extra credit for coming to school. It's
Yeah.
a fun day because that's the day that they get paid for every student in that seat.
Yep.
So I go to school, everything's cool, whatever. The next day, I get called into the office. Sorry, Mr. Knoll, you're just not going to make it. You're no longer allowed on this premises. You're expelled, blah, blah, blah. You cause too many problems. You don't have enough credits. We just having you here is pointless, basically, is what they told me. And I still have that letter. I have my expulsion letter. Because,
what are you, a fucking hoarder?
because it's things in my life where, again, somebody told me I wasn't good enough. Or just, along those lines. And I remember, like, the thing I was most pissed off about to this day was I felt used. Motherfucker, you had me come in for count day. You could have just expelled me when I got into a fight.
Yeah.
That could have been the end of it. No, you had me come back. This was fucking planned. You had me come back to get that money for me and then kick me out.
Yeah. I could see that happening.
And it's again, like, you just feel like I got. Like,
I got. I
like,
love that saying.
Like, you just had me come back in that fucking seat to get your paycheck and then poof. Yep. You don't believe in me. You never did. It was about the money. And it just, again, I want to fucking prove you wrong. So what did I do? Well, first off, Dad kicked me out. Because if you're not working in his house or you're not going to school, you can't live there.
Yeah.
So it wasn't long after that I was out. Until I finally went back to school.
Fuddrucker High.
Fuddrucker High. I realized what it was. I figured it out within the quarter that, or whatever it was. I think the fall. Dad let me come home. I don't know how it worked out. I got to come back home. But, because again, the whole runaway, you didn't run away thing.
Kick you out and then cause you to run away.
So, I get to come back, and dude, I just started fucking grinding. I started grinding so hard. Every day I'd work at Burger King from 9 until 3. I'd get off work at Burger King, I'd go to school from 4 to 10, walk home. Maybe, I don't remember this kid's name, once in a blue moon he'd give me a ride. I'd walk to Burger King, because a lot of times you weren't home. Or maybe if you were home, you gave me a ride here, you didn't like me much back then, you probably told me to fuck off.
You're pissing me off.
I just remember walking, fucking everywhere, all my teenage life, just fucking walking. And that's why I think music is so important, because I could not walk, I could not do any of that without the fucking headphones. There's no fucking way I'm walking 6 miles without headphones in my ear. And I remember there was one time where I decided I had to walk to school, which was funny. This was back in Stevenson. The bus stop was right outside our door.
Oh, yeah.
And I wasn't getting up. I would fucking wake up an hour later and walk the 4 miles or whatever it was. But I remember I used to take Travis's CD player.
Yep.
And that was the big fucking deal, because it was his CD player. I took it, and you woke up, and you were like, give me the fucking CD player, and I threw your ass. I remember throwing you down the hallway, because no one was taking that CD player from me. But that's the power music has, I think. Like, that's the only way I'm getting to school. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you probably had one of my CDs in it anyway.
Probably. But the point is, you have to believe in yourself. You have to take that next step. And you have to find that thing that pushes you to be your best self. And for me, that's the one thing I had growing up that I got to latch on to was music. And I kept it a secret for a lot of the reasons why, because we butted heads so much. Music was your thing. You were so talented in it. I was never going to be as good as you in it. I still, to this day, probably won't be as good as you at knowing about it, playing the drums, whatever. But fucking A, do I love it. I love playing it. I love learning it.
Good times. It really is.
And now that we're older and we're not at each other's throats as much, it's something we can bond over. It's something we can enjoy making mixes, playing the drums together. Maybe, you play the guitar, play the drums like we used to back in the day and your fucking thing.
Record shopping.
There you
go.
And the whole point is, I don't want to be the next fucking whoever. I don't want to be the next Blink. I don't want to be the next 21 Pilots. I want to be the new Ryan that isn't stuck in his own head, that can admit he has problems, and fucking A, I'm going to fix it.
It's a good start.
So, now that
this is a good start.
Computer's about to die for the 5th, 6th time, I'm so happy that we finally got through this. I don't think we hit everything I wanted to.
Next time I come out,
But hey, this is episode 1.
More going.
Or episode 3, however you want to look at it.
It's A New Hope. Wait, that's episode 4.
Yes, A New Hope.
So you got to make this one episode 4 then, just so you can.
That makes so much sense. Yeah. Right. Yeah. All right. Signing off. Comeback Kid. Good luck. Keep your heads up. Let's get this shit done.